But also, like, again, all right, I have to say this. Do you guys know how, like, fucking snark DGG snarkers and these like Queeman and J Stock and all these people, like, yeah, like we know that at the very least, right? Well, you kind of realize that they're kind of the same kind of people, aren't they? They're democratic snarkers, is what they are, right? They they are they're dem snarks, or whatever the fuck. I don't know. Like, that's literally the best way you can do to describe them. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I can't. I don't think I'm tripping on this. I think this makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
as well. But I mean, there is a difference between criticism and derangement, obviously.
Do you think?
Yeah,
Sorry,
snark
just
dems, snark
someone in chat
dems,
saying they
yes.
vote Democrat. That's a good start. Do you see the Vanguard
Wait, quickly, write it down, write it down. Someone get this to Hutch. Someone get this to Hutch. Snark dems.
as either like potential allies or enemies or like deadweight or something other than those three? Like, yeah, how do you actually view them?
Because obviously they don't agree to being called lefties, right? They don't agree to being called like communists or socialists. Fine. Okay, snark dems. Snark left.
In like a word.
Dem snarks.
I would say useful, like,
When your entire personality is defined off of how much you hate Democrats, then you're a democratic snark person, okay? You're a snarker. You're a dem snarker, okay?
tool. I would put like Hassan and Vanguard and Brianna Joy Gray as like useful tool. I would say, like, again, I wouldn't, if I was like running a presidential campaign, I wouldn't, the way that I would interact with them would be like, I would go on their show and just talk about the campaign, debate them, try to reach out to their audience. And I think I think that's generally an opinion that most establishment Democrats at this point feel, not necessarily about people like the Vanguard, but like, if an established
Useful
Democrat is willing
idiots,
to
yeah.
say, I'll go on to like Steve Bannon's
do that, snarkers,
podcast,
yeah.
or I'll go on
Dude, I've had snarkers since day one. Fuck.
to like Joe Rogan's podcast. Not because I feel like obviously I want to ally with Joe Rogan or Steve Bannon, but because it's important to show a Democratic face to a generally oppositional group or like audience. Like, that's good. Like, I want, like, if Charlie Kirk invited me as like a Democratic politician to go like debate him or something, like I would 100% accept that, right? And so similar with like Hassan, it's like, yeah, like I think that if you're like running for Congress, like I would totally do an interview with Hassan, and I would try to, make it a point to be like, yeah, it's important that your audience knows, like, it's important to vote for Democrats, right? Like, Republicans, it's not a trivial thing. I understand Democrats can be disappointing and Democrats can be this or that or whatever, but it's like, this is like the coalition that's clearly the correct people to vote for, plain and simple. So I think that's probably how I would kind of think about like this, like very,
snark dems,
like
yeah,
very,
snark
very
dems.
like oppositional,
like soft dems,
like
right?
left-wing
Snark
media
dems.
space.
Dem snarks. Exactly.
I wonder if they see
No, you're not a social democrat. You're not a social democrat. You're a snark democrat. Okay, you're a snark dem. That's what you are. No, you're not a democratic socialist. No, you're a dem snark. Okay. Ooh, doesn't that work perfectly well?
Dems is more of a useful tool than they are to the Dems. Like, I don't know if you saw Bernie Sanders on Novara Media talking to them. The only big clip that spread around that they grabbed from that interview was Ash Sarkar asking Bernie like 3 times if what's happening is a genocide in Gaza. And Bernie at this point was already calling for an arms embargo. Like, you've got every fucking policy.
Wait, doesn't it make sense? Because to snarkers, some people can never do anything good, right? Does that make sense? Like, to snarkers, the person that they are making fun of can never do anything good. Which also fucking applies to people who do this to Democrats, right? If you think about it. Because nothing the Democrats do, it's like the chart, it's like the flow chart, right? They're doing the flow chart thing. Nothing the Democrats do is good enough for them, right? So isn't it the perfect term for them? Democratic Party anti-fans? Yeah. Dem Party anti-fans, literally. Yeah. Yes! Yes, because you have people who are genuine fans of the Democratic Party, right? You have people who are the fans of the Democratic Party associating with the people who are the anti-fans of the Democratic parties, right? That's the issue that we're facing here, right? We're never are like fans of something should generally stay away from people who are the anti-fans of that same thing, right? Unless you're looking for a fight or something, I guess. But like, isn't that the actual case? Oh no! Oh my god! Everything makes sense now.
The concession that
Oh
you
my
want,
gosh!
and she's still purity testing him on genocide. Like
Oh
that to me
god!
is kind of fucked. And I think in a case like that, I think even with someone like Bernie, who is as far left as Dems get, right? He was like he was useful to them, and they just hamstrung him. Like I'm not.
Like the ContraPoints meme of only wanting to critique Power Perpetual Snark. I don't know why someone didn't come up with this yet. Democratic Party anti-fans, right? You would never expect anti-fans to ever view the Democratic Party in a good light, yes? It's the same thing. Dude, we're onto something.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of those
Real.
weird things. Like, I don't, politicians just feel the need to like, obviously lefties feel the need to purity test, and politicians
Snark
feel the
in,
need to
yeah.
be like wiffly waffly on issues like that. Like, if Bernie doesn't think it's a genocide, he should just say like, no, I don't. But every time he's asked about it, he's always like, well, that's a legal term, and what Israel's doing is terrible. It's like, dude, just say no.
Well,
Like,
because
I don't
you know what
understand.
happens.
Like,
You know what happens if he just says no, though, right? Like because to them.
Yeah, and now you just have like you have Econoboy criticizing Bernie for not being honest with the fact that it's a genocide or not, or not being honest with like whether or not it's a genocide or something, right? Like, do you see how like fucking dishonest he is? Like, I don't think Econoboy is dumb as to think that he doesn't know that Bernie saying that is political suicide, right? Because Bernie's entire fucking fan base are all progressive people. They're all progressive people, and they all believe that what's going on is a genocide. It would be political suicide for him, right? At least it wouldn't be suicide, I think, because yeah, but like I think it would be a lot of drama, right? At the very least. So, um, so yeah, like the fact that he even suggests this is unhinged.
And like saying like it's the proxy issue. If you say no, that's like
why
you're dead, right? Whereas you're like
yeah, sure, but like it's just like Bernie should be. That's almost like it's like the criticism you have for like me and the Vanguard. It's almost like what I'm saying about Bernie. It's just like to the extent that like a meaningfully large portion of your base would abandon you if you just flatly said no to the question of is Israel a genocide? Is Israel committing a genocide in the Gaza Strip? It's like, okay, well then it's like Bernie, you're 85 fucking years old, man. Who cares at this point? Just fucking say it with your fucking chest. This is your
dude. Like, how do you not hear this and think that Econoboy is a fucking retard? What? Like, he actually sounds like a fucking retarded vegetable. Like, he sounds insane here. Bernie, say it with your fucking chest that to your fan base of people who think that Gaza is undergoing a genocide, that you don't think there's a genocide going on? Really? Ninja? Really? You fucking moron?
last term in the U.S. Senate anyway.
Really?
I don't really understand the point of being wiffly waffly when you're like 85 years old and you're like, this is your last hurrah in politics, right? And so.
And Surefat Taku says that Econoboy is smart. He's not smart. And Destiny says he's smart. He's not smart. This is like the farthest from smart.
I would just want like politicians to be more direct in general.
What do you think? What do you think Navarro would have done with that clip if he had just said nah, fuck you, like, or just no?
Well,
sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, like I'm sure that like if you don't like, I'm just saying like if you don't think it's a genocide, just say no, right? And if you think it is a genocide, like.
I think that an issue that we actually run into unironically is that I think socialists kind of unironically dumb down politics to a matter of honesty, when in reality, politics is all about securing enough power to enact legislation, okay, to enact reform. That is the point of politics. Politics is not about honesty or dishonesty. It's not. It's not. If you're justified to lie, you're justified to be dishonest or evasive when it comes to answering questions, when you have legislation and political power to seize. Because if you can't do that, you're useless. You're a useless politician, okay? If you're unable to enact legislation, reform, or anything like that, you cannot play the Game of Thrones, okay? You can't play the Game of Thrones, all right? Can you imagine if everyone who wanted to take the Iron Throne just said, like, hey, you know, I want to take the Iron Throne and I want to assassinate everyone doing it, right? Just be honest, bro. Okay. Being honest means death. But okay, dude. Like, dude, it's actually so fucking unhinged. Oh my god. Oh, I just want my politicians to be a little bit more honest. Okay, you want them to fail then. That's what you want. You want them to fucking fail. All right? Because guess what? There are a lot of stupid people out there, okay? And being honest means having a lot of stupid people against you, okay? It's not... I'm sorry, that's just stupid, okay?
Like,
Fuck.
just say yes, you know?
You fucking moron.
Like, I don't understand... Like, I understand the political reason why you have to be wiffly-waffly on issues, but I think that, like that exact scenario, like, oh, like, is it a genocide? The reason Bernie gets asked every single fucking time, is it a genocide, is because he just won't. He's never actually answered that question.
Why do you think he has nothing to gain from answering that fucking question, mate? He has nothing to fucking... Dude. You kind of boy, okay? We need to throw hands. Okay, I'm kidding. Okay, all right, joking. That's a joke. Okay, YouTube, that's a joke. All right, but
you know, I agree that the purity testing of the left is like ridiculous to.
Foodshops, what time is it for you right now? 11:17 p.m. Dude, if this Destiny Antifan doesn't come on to debate me, I'm never debating this person, okay? Fuck waiting for a debate, okay? Fuck that shit. All right?
To a certain extent,
I don't
and people should be a little bit
debates.
Charitable. Like, I think, like, maybe the best way, I can't remember who the video was that I was watching, but I think the best way to criticize Bernie would be like somebody who's like extreme left, like criticizing Bernie. I saw a video where essentially like the thesis of the video was something like, look, like, Bernie is a good guy. I really like Bernie. I just think that, you know, he does represent this kind of like liberal Zionism that I think is toxic. And, you know, he wasn't saying Bernie's just a fucking sellout. He's just as bad as Netanyahu. Like, he was actually engaging in what I think to be like an extreme left opinion, but also not like totally insane vitriolic rhetoric, right? And, you know, I just, when I talk to, this is why I try to separate like people on the ground versus people in the media, that like, I have a lot of pro-Palestinian like activist friends, and, you know, when I talk to them about people like Bernie and AOC, they would say something similarly nuanced, where it's like, yeah, I mean, I think it's bullshit that AOC and Bernie do this, that, or the other, but like, obviously I'd be ecstatic to be able to vote for them for president over like a Biden or a Joe Manchin or like whoever, like moderate Democrat, generic Dem kind of person, right? And so, you know, it's like when Mondani ran for mayor, right? You did see a few people who would protest him and would say he's a sellout for working with AOC and stuff like that, like actually existing people that would say that. But it seems like of the actually existing people that like were his activist base and like people that he worked with and, you know, like the people who supported him, like he did have like a broad base of support that wasn't generally deranged on this issue. And so, you know, the media figures are definitely, you know, annoying about that issue, and, you know, they can be kind of like you said, like very purity testy, but I don't know. I mean, I just, until I start like seeing that translate into.
No, I wouldn't say Econoboy is a snark dam. Like, he is on his way. Not really, but I think he's a fucking moron. That's what, okay?
I guess like big swings in election outcomes. It's just hard for me to say like anything other than like, yeah, it's just kind of like annoying, I guess.
Like, if you saw more compelling evidence that these narratives from like the far left.
A martini, shaken, not stirred.
By the way, love the content. I'm a security guard and listening to drama and political stuff makes my day go faster. Thanks a bunch.
That is so fucking wholesome. You have no fucking idea. 8-bit Zephyr, okay? Thank you so much for the $10, buddy, okay? And what's worth more than that $10 is the emotional reward from receiving that comment, okay? W Sepher, okay? W Sepher, guys. All right, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that $10. I'm here for you, okay? I'm here for the night people. Thank you. Donate anytime. Thanks for supporting the stream. Boom.
Alt media spaces are actually producing like a loss of turnout to a point where like Dems would have otherwise won, right? Like that kind of thing is what you want to see.
Well, yeah. I'm not trying to. That's kind of impossible evidence to gather, right? This is all conjecture because there's no like forensic like this is the proportion of votes Dems lost because of ML media figures, right? But we can look at some proxies that are like, how many votes did Jill Stein get? It's like, okay, well, some kind of trivially low amount, right?
But Jill Stein's obviously not like, because I think the kind of people who are your Crystal and Kyle, or like more specifically people like Hassan and all that. My worry isn't those people who would definitely prefer Democrats and would live better under Democrats. It's not them voting for Jill Stein. It's them not turning out at all. I think that's the thing. But those are the numbers that are harder to prove, right?
Right. Exactly. You cannot count who does not show up, right? Does that make sense, guys? You cannot count who does not show up. If a voter who would have been a voter does not show up, you cannot count them. You can't, right? Survivor's bias. This is literally Oh, I'm a fucking genius. My brain is working full time today, okay? Survivor's bias. That's what it is. You cannot count. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy because the fact that they do not show up. Explain survivor's bias, please. Sure. So, you do not count inside like you would probably argue that the more people participate in your survey, the better, right? However, one part that you cannot like include are that is within the range of opinions are people who don't even take the survey in the first place, right? For example, you see everyone that has succeeded because they grow big enough to have succeeded, right? Like the billionaires, the CEOs, the content creators who actually make it, right? But you don't see all the corpses that they stand on because corpses cannot speak, right? Corpses cannot explain how terrible the industry is because they're corpses, right? So everyone who have failed cannot speak up to contribute to the statistic. However, everyone who has succeeded manages to get a loud enough voice to contribute to the statistics, right? So to the outsider, they portray an inaccurate representation of, so winners only speak? Exactly. Victors write the history. Yeah, victors write the history kind of shit. Yes? Does that make sense? It's that kind of stuff. Because the losers who probably have like the real history are dead. And the history is already rewritten. So you can never get that side of the story anymore. Right? Does that make sense? So in this specific example, the reason why this applies is because you have a bunch of people who did not vote, but you're unable to get their opinion because they stayed at home. So these are the losers. These are the people who are the corpses who don't get to speak up on why they didn't vote. Which is why it's so hard to measure this. How the fuck do you poll people? Or how the fuck do you get the opinions of people who would otherwise vote, right? It's much harder to get something like that. So, yeah, that's what I'm getting at, all right? But the people who did actually vote, well, now your statistics is a little bit skewed and biased, right? A little bit. When Allied bomber planes returned from their mission, they only looked at those returning to assess where the damage was taken, but didn't factor in those which were destroyed. That's where it comes from. Yes, that's where survivor's bias comes from. That's the origin of it. Basically, obviously, you want to analyze like which parts of the plane you want to improve in terms of like armor and stuff. And turns out all the fucking planes that came back had bullet holes in the wings. So does that mean that you want to reinforce the armor in the wings? Well, no, right? Because these are the planes that came back. All the planes that came back had armor, had bullet holes on the wings. So you actually want to reinforce the portions that is the cockpit, the tail, and like other parts, the crucial parts. the engine, right? The part where the engine is, the part where the cockpit is. That's where you actually want to reinforce, because the planes that are hit in the cockpit and in the engine are the ones that don't come back. Does that make sense? Yeah. It's a beautiful concept. It's a beautiful concept because we see it every day. It's a fallacy that we see every day, right? Like, you know how red pill coaches are always like, well, you can always make it if you follow my regime. You can make it too if you follow my training workout. Well, you're here because you succeeded. What about all the people who failed? You're not, like, the 90% of people who fail isn't really speaking up about it anymore, are they? Because they failed. But you're here to tell me that if you just follow your exercise, they succeed. Well, sounds like survivor's bias, okay? Yeah. You watch this on, you'll get a good idea why they didn't vote, lol. Yeah, exactly. So this is why whenever people go like, oh, I don't think, whenever people say like, oh, this is why I don't think, like, fuck. So when people are like, oh, this is why I don't think people like Hassan and these other people like affect all that much. Well, you wouldn't know that, would you? Right? Because survivor's bias. Yeah. I had this explained to the Mount Everest thing. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's right, that's right. And I mean, it seemed like, but then it's like, how do you link the lack of
Basically, like, this is the ambiguity that people like, that people like Econoboy play on, right? Us to never fail in their argument, right? They wouldn't fail in their argument because they never had a chance to fail in their argument, or never had a chance to display in the data that it fails in the argument, right? Yeah.
turnout? Because it's clear that a lot of Biden voters in 2020 didn't vote for Harris in 2024. I think the number was like about 10 million for the numbers that I calculated, right? But at the same time that's true, the polling of like people who identify as socialists seems pretty consistent in that, well, of people who identify as socialists, something like 90% of them voted for Kamala Harris in 2024, right? And so I just, it's hard
Right, but that's out of the people who did vote.
for me to.
I'm assuming, okay? I'm assuming. I could be wrong, but I'm assuming.
Given that that's true, it's just very hard for me to link, these kind of alt-left media figures with some kind of like serious depression and turnout. But like I said, I mean, like, I feel like we agree on all the actual descriptions here that, I think that this kind of left-wing alt media that you're.
I just really hate, if there's anything that I hate here, is that Econoboy's like fucking casual attitude when discussing this issue. I don't know, like, I'm sure he doesn't mean for it to sound this casual, but the casual way that he is just discussing like the ultimate fall of the Democrats is so like putrid to me, It's viscerally like disgusting. I don't know, there's something about it that feels wrong.
Describing is very.
It's flippant, yeah. And while he's like munching on his burger and like drinking his fucking soda like a fat American hog that he is. Okay, dude. All right, I'm glad that you don't care because you're white. So, okay, cool, I guess.
Very purity testy. They're very kind of like, I think their electoral strategy clearly just doesn't work. Like Brianna Joy.
No, he's not malicious. He's so stupid. Because the thing is that if he actually was malicious, I feel as though he would be saying something different. But I feel like Hanlon's razor is this, okay? Hanlon's razor is another fallacy that I should teach you guys. Is never assume malice where stupidity can be an explanation. Yeah. So if stupidity can be an explanation, it's stupidity like 90% of the time, right? It's stupidity 90% of the time. Yeah. Hanlon's razor. But the truth is, people want to be excited about who they vote for. Yep, exactly. You have to be enthusiastically supportive of Kamala. Okay.
Gray has contributed exactly nothing to American policy by supporting the Green Party. Everyone who's ever voted for the Green Party has contributed exactly nothing to American policy at all. Dems don't Dems just simply don't shift left because you vote for the Green Party. Dems shift left when
the youth vote 18 to 24 dropped from 52% 2020 to 43% 2024. Exactly. That's a good one. And youth tends to vote left. The youth tends to vote left. Yeah. If that is true, then that is technically a little bit of evidence at the very least, right? I mean, obviously we have to see how they sampled that information, and if you're truly good faith, you would see, how they got the information first and how they sampled and which populations they chose from, or how they chose to do that information. Because some people just don't know how to do polls. But yeah, I think Econoboy isn't malicious, just kind of naive. He is super naive. Ultra naive even. Like the fact that he has a bunch of like fucking pride flags in the background and he says that he's coming out of the closet as a socialist tells everything to me, okay? I'm sorry. Like this just tells me he's like kind of a child, Does that make sense? Like he's kind of like a child. He's like like the way that he describes like coming out of the closet as a fucking as a fucking socialist. Like, okay, dude. Good for you, I guess.
Say socialists win Democratic primaries. Like that seems to be much more likely to shift the Dems to the left. So the electoral strategy is bankrupt for electoralists, but like anti-Dem leftists. And then for the anti-Dem, anti-electoralist leftists, it's like, well, they're almost like necessarily irrelevant, right? Because they're not even voting, right? So like, what the fuck? Like they're like closed to the potential of the election, I guess.
Do you see when Convoy had the USSR, North Korea, and Cuba flags in the back? Yes. We had a whole discourse about it. In fact, I had a debate about it. Yeah, the videos are up.
Because they don't even vote in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. That's, and again,
God, just hearing the fucking eating and drinking sounds in the background just drives my blood pressure up, dude. Holy shit. Holy fuck, dude. Like the fucking, God, what a fucking disgusting, ugh.
And when it comes to data, like that might be a different question.
Like how does hearing this not like disgust someone, right? This is like actually so disgusting. Oh God.
I find it just, again, I'm just being intuitive. I'm just being soy intuitive, but I just find it hard to believe that like you can have this media sphere, which is, okay, let's face it, it's growing. Like alt media is never going away. It's growing.
Yeah,
It's
I totally agree. No, but that's, Lonerbox. I just be clear. Like I totally buy, like I think it's sensible to say that, yeah, like you might expect like in 10 years that, as Zoomers become in their 30s and Gen Alpha are like voting in large numbers, that these people might grow significantly, and so that is kind of a risk. And I guess with the Vanguard specifically, I don't think they're particularly, I guess, like I'm not relevant either. Like Vanguard's not very relevant. I'm not either. But like with regard to like people like Hassan, like I think, okay, for instance, like there was like this he goes and gets an interview from NPR, and the NPR guys kind of allow him to get away with saying like, oh, I'm just like a progressive. And it's like, bro, like, no, like that's crazy. Like if I was talking to Hassan, I would not allow him to get away with being like, I'm just a progressive. It's like, no, Hassan, like, don't be a pussy. Like you're a fucking super left-wing socialist. Just say it with your chest. And let's talk about what you said about re-education camps and kind of at least, give you the opportunity to clarify some things. Like, stuff like that is super duper wild, right?
And to be clear, he didn't say camps. He said they would happen in very nice places with with regular old dudes. Wait, hang on, Spider. Wait.
That's a criticism. I think that at least part. All I was going to say was like, I think that's a very sensible criticism by magnitude for those platforms, because that's like establishment media, not like literally giving like a softball interview to Hassan, which I mean, I wouldn't do that personally. Like if I was talking to Hassan, like again, I'd at least make it a point to.
That interview is actually supremely disappointing from what I saw of it. It's just like so fucking bad. Holy shit, I've never seen another like interview that is as bad as that one. Holy crap. God, so what a disgusting softball interview. No, not good. Yeah.
Draw a stark contrast of how we tend to interact and like work within these spaces. Sorry, I interrupted whoever else was trying to talk.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, I guess there's maybe one other thing that I'm pretty sure we agree on, but just double check, is that, yeah, like there is like the potential of this big like future problem coming up where you have this like space where Trump can go on to Rogan and all these other like brown-nosed people who will support the party, even often despite disagreements, on a few key issues, but he'll get his fair share from media that are going to vote for him. Whereas the alt media, even if they do vote Dem, are going to spend 364 days dragging the Dems. And also, I think this also results in confused messaging as well. I think listening to Harris answer questions, she just sounded so fucking scared of her own shadow when she was talking, right? Like it sounded like she was scared to make the right wingers think she was too progressive, but she also definitely looked like she was like treading lightly with left wingers as well when she was answering this. And that does leave you a problem where you kind of feel like you're beset on all sides. And the more the left wing alt media space grows, like this, it's unsustainable. It's unsustainable to have people who, even if they vote Dems, just hamstring them for the entire year, bar one day when they're asked, who's the lesser of two evils? Yeah.
Right, yeah. People say they like generic Democrat much more than they actually do when they're presented with someone trying to be generic Democrat.
Yeah.
Right. Like people, they want to at least see like some, some like noticeable personality and like some genuine kind of quirks and stuff. And that's one reason why I've always said that. Like I think one of the appeals of Bernie is that even though Bernie like is like very much just a very risless, grouchy old man, he is just, it's like kind of endearing that he's just willing to just be that way. Like he's just an angry old man talking about socialism all the time. And that's just who he is. It's who he's always been. You can find clips of him when he's like 40 years old doing the same shit. And that's very endearing. So I think, the Democrats, I mean, like I've said before openly that although I prefer AOC and like I'd want AOC to be the nominee in 2028 and not more moderate Democrats, I've said that in terms of like just purely maximizing your electoral outcomes, I think that based on all of the information I've learned about the sort of postmortem of 2024, that's something like a John Ossoff with a tilt progressive platform would maybe be like perfectly optimal, right? Even though obviously he's not a very progressive person himself. But
And this is why I don't think Econoboy is actually malicious, is because like he is advocating for people that the leftists have already disavowed, right? Like they probably wouldn't get on board with John Ossoff, right? They probably wouldn't be on board with AOC anymore, right? Like these people are already people who like lefties have already thrown away. So which is why I just think he's just retarded. That's it.
That probably won't happen, and it's going to be like imperfect overall. And I'm sure that when 2028 rolls around, we're going to have all the same debates that we typically have with these people. I mean, every time there's a presidential election, like these people go on platforms and try to defend the idea of not voting for the Democrat, and they get throttled by people like you and me and like Pisco, and just like every single time that this happens, like it's a complete debate, and I feel like it's a pretty incoherent electoral strategy every time. So,
okay, Spider, you had something to say?
Spider.
So I have a couple questions again. So this is my first question. Wait, Econ, are you a communist socialist?
I'm a socialist at this point in my life. Yeah.
That shit, that shit.
Fringe. It's not tight.
First question is, well, this is for both of you. So who would you pick, Lonerbox, Trump or Hassan for president? Who would you choose?
It's a fucking dumb question. I don't know.
God, why let in anyone like this? Oh my fucking god. Dude, these fucking Humegalos who just want attention is so cringe. Oh god.
There's so many.
That's not a dumb question. It's a fucking question.
It is a dumb question.
I want to be able to talk to Streamer Man and also talk to other streamers. Parasocial relationship. Ooh.
Because there are so many potential things you'd have to consider about like what society look like when we've got 50% of the population voting for fucking Hassan. Okay. I don't know if that means we're gonna get like Hassan for 2 years and then there's a coup and fucking Stalin comes in.
All right, fine. If like, the majority, if Hassan Piker, right, the Turkish white nice. Motherfucker.
But I don't know this person. I don't even know this. Okay, fine. You're gay for this, okay? But
got in president, okay? If he became president,